Hi everyone, welcome to Who Said What with your hosts Hiba and Mira. We're two sisters in our 40s with lots of stories to share. Having lived across Egypt, the US, Saudi, Kuwait, Dubai, and Europe, we share a unique mix of cultural insights and fresh perspectives. In each episode, we dive into the unfiltered sides of entrepreneurship, motherhood, relationships, and the crazy dynamics of family life. Well, actually, of our crazy family life. Ever wonder how cultures shape our ideas of success, love, and happiness? And why some topics are completely taboo in one country, yet casual conversation in another? Well, we're here to spill the tea, no sugarcoating, just real talk and a lot of laughs. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into another episode of Who Said What. Okay.
Hi, Hebs.
Hi, guys. We're back.
Hi,
I'm
everybody.
Hiba.
I'm Mira.
And we had this very interesting event that we went to.
Super interesting, and it came
The
by
Diary,
mere chance.
the Diary of the CEO, Steven Bartlett, the host of that podcast. And he's an author, best-selling author. Anyways, he
has
came...
the most downloadable podcast, Diary of a CEO.
1 billion downloads
in the world.
he's reached. Yeah. Anyways...
Can I ask you a question? When they say 1 million download, is it like...
Billion.
1 billion. Is it like cumulative?
Yeah, cumulative.
Okay. I'm just...
1 billion per episode is...
It's impossible.
Maybe it's possible, but not likely. Anyways, so basically we met him at this event. He came to speak, right?
In Aurora, in
West. We went here till 2 p.m. sharp. We got there at 2 p.m. sharp. Luckily, I didn't listen to you, and you wanted us to be there before then. Got there at 2. Basically, he arrived at 4, was it? Or 4:30?
I gotta tell you about when he arrived at 4:30. It was so funny. This got caught. My friend Yahya came and told me.
Okay, what?
Because remember, we had the table right in front of the stage. And
There were sofas. There weren't tables, so we were on the sofa
right in front of the stage. Yeah. And then we're waiting for him. My book is there. Of course, a friend of mine.
He showed up 2.5 hours after.
My friend called me a nerd for bringing the book, but he signed it.
What do you mean? Of course, he got the book. I took the book.
A friend of mine was just like, "You're such a nerd. You got the book." I'm like, "Because he's gonna sign it for me." That's part of the point.
That was part of the invite.
So I was talking to. Remember, I was at the high table talking to Ayman Becky. And then I turned around, and while I was talking, I turned around that he arrived and sitting on our sofa.
And he was sitting right next to me.
He was sitting on our sofa.
And I was the only one. I was the only one. I was sitting there because I was done with the mingling and the small talk because, it's not my forte. It's your strong suit. But anyway, so I was just sitting on the sofa.
You were mingling plenty, Abba.
No, okay, but what I'm saying is that, I had reached my maximum limit. So basically, I was sitting on the sofa. And I was kind of perusing his book because I had read it the night before. I finished the whole book. And he came and sat right next to me with, I guess, who turns out to be his assistant, Sophie. And and then 2 minutes later, Nira comes, makes a beeline to that sofa.
No, but it was like
right
swarmed,
next to us.
It was swarmed everywhere. So
no, by the way, nobody else was on our sofa, or maybe I didn't notice.
No, you didn't notice. Because Yahya was just like, أنا شفت كان في an IG story شفتك أنت جيتي وزنقتي نفسك بين الناس and you grabbed your book and you like a proper.
Oh, really? It came up?
I was like, fuck it. Yes, he's there. I'm going to get his autograph. I'm like, I'm not going to be nice to other people that are there.
But he only autographed me and our books, right?
No, he autographed a lot of books, but...
No, after. I'm talking about before he spoke.
But no, because we gave him the book. So he only autographed our book and put a note of what chapter to read.
Because his book is basically the 33 laws of doing business, I guess. Anyways, it was... So yeah, he told me to read Law 19.
Me was 21, so he's like he said actually that he meets you on intuition, basically decides which law.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me your thoughts. Was he as compelling or as impressive as you had expected him to be? Did you listen? Have you listened to his podcast?
I did. I've listened to a few episodes of his podcast. I didn't get a chance to read the book, but I'm starting to read it now. One of my really close friends, Hatem, I've been hearing about him forever because Hatem watches his podcast nonstop. Like he
He's pretty
loves him. He loves him. And then, so I'd heard a couple of things. So I had known like the way Hatem talked about it, and Hatem watches a lot of these podcasts. So I really respect Hatem's opinion. So I was watching it. So I said, sounds good. And of course I heard a lot of other like comments about him, Steven Bartlett, that he's arrogant or whatever. Like, you know, you hear like, you know,
somebody
the
had
negatives.
said they thought that he was a little bit arrogant.
Yes, somebody. So I heard that. But I went with no expectations. I said, you know, let's see, because I was really interested. The episodes I watched were really interesting. He asks really interesting questions. He brings in really interesting people, and not people that are famous celebrities, yes, but he brings other people, like this one woman that studies like your face and how when you smile with a certain muscle, it becomes more inviting. I find it very interesting. I think he was very interesting. When he was talking, you just feel he has a lot of valuable information, and it's really amazing for somebody that's so young.
Yeah.
That's what really shocks me, is that I'm looking at him talk, and he's 32. He's very concise when he talks. He's very clear when he talks. He makes his point very clearly. And he makes you think, like, for me, it made me think of stuff, how you approach business and what's more important. And when he was talking about the hiring, the HR, like, it's very important to hire the right people, because then they will hire the right people. And so you should really invest in your HR and the people that work around you. And to me for some odd reason, when he was talking about that, I started reflecting on all the companies where I worked and the people I worked with and the different companies, and like how some companies, there was a very homogeneous feel to it. Like in Leo Burnett, we were all of like mind. Like our boss at the time hired people that we all got along and we all thought the same. We were all, and then I've been working in other companies where it's just mishmash and you realize this is why it's not working.
Yeah, he says something about one bad apple can ruin the culture of an organization, because he definitely does. He basically emphasizes very, very much the whole hiring system is extremely important, because contrary to, like, this is something that you have your kind of analysis. My analogy is basically how a lot of people, I find in Egypt, maybe a lot in the Middle East, that people think they need to hire people that are not that skilled. Mm-mm. But he talks about how it's important to hire somebody that's going to tell you what to do about things that you don't know. Exactly. So, and I find that one of the most important things. And to me, that was something that I really believe in. It's been like many, many years. I always feel people here like to hire people that are maybe less than them so they don't outshine them. But the problem is that you don't really I like to hire people that are going to make me understand things, or going to do things that I don't know how to do. I don't feel like I need to multitask and do everything. Otherwise, then, because my time is finite. So, I mean, my time is limited. I can't do everything. Why do I need to do? I can understand, maybe I know where I'm going with what I'm doing in my business, and let's say the interior design or whatever podcast. But I don't necessarily need to know every single thing. I want to hire somebody who's going to make my life easier and tell me, you know what, I advise you to do this or this. And then I can basically, figure it out and see if I like this or if I don't like this. But it's important to hire people that know what they're doing.
Absolutely. Because the thing is, it's not now I find the time that we're living in now, the younger tend to be more, I don't know if I would use the word knowledgeable, but more in tune with what's happening.
They're more informed.
They're more on trend.
Because the media of communication here is different from when we were growing up.
So you will learn a lot from this younger generation, because they're coming into it with a completely new set of sunglasses, glasses. Like, we are a product of our parents. I know the way I work is still the old-fashioned way. That's, the way we were brought up. It's like the way we study. You go to class, you write down your notes in a certain way, and then you study, and you come back, and you take your exam. So it's very methodical almost. But I think that you should learn a lot. And when I first came to Egypt, remember when I first came back after college, I worked when I was in college because I had to make money. But when I showed people my resume, I would get questions like, when did you work all these jobs? And the dates are right there, by the way. So I was just like, okay, this, I don't
During
know if
college?
I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with you if you don't know how to read the dates.
Part-time jobs?
Exactly.
Summer
But
jobs?
every time I went to an interview, and I was only 22, they had this attitude, and I never got the attitude. And then some people are just like, if they feel that you have potential, they don't want to hire you because they're already threatened by you in a bloody interview. And I'm not saying that I was great. I wasn't, but it was a very odd environment. And I remember somebody once told me, I think it was Dad, oddly enough, and he said, I have no problems teaching somebody underneath me everything that I know, because if they excel and they get better than me, then technically you've done a good job managing them. Yeah. Whereas in here, people want to suppress that. And I say here as in Egypt because Egypt is the only place where I worked. I worked in the States, and I never felt that in the States, honestly, but I was also just a student. So it was a different dynamics. But I'm talking about what I know. I don't know what it's like working in other countries.
I think I like to work in an environment where there's like teamwork. Like there's synergies. Like no, but I like it to be like I'm used to smaller groups. I probably work better like that. But I think that's an important thing he spoke about, because he mentioned that a lot, and he was talking about that.
Whenever somebody would bring somebody to come work with me, I never felt threatened. Because I have attributes that person doesn't have, and they have attributes that I don't have, and vice versa. And I'm sure I'll learn from them. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, yeah.
What surprised you the most about the event?
Nothing.
Go ahead. Okay, what surprised me the most is that I was surprised that so many people, well, I guess maybe because now everybody's connected on social media, I was surprised at how many people know him. And there was when I was standing there was people gushing, coming to him and telling him, I love you, man. I don't know, have they listened to his podcast? I was just wondering. And there was that book signing at the end of his talk felt like a mosh pit.
Like a superstar.
I was surprised about that. I was surprised that all these people knew him that well, because this event was small, but it didn't feel that small.
It wasn't small.
He has major star power. I felt like I was in a concert.
I'm not surprised. Because he's a social media sensation. And I think I'm not surprised. I'm disconnected from social media a little bit. I'm on it, but I'm not fully ingrained in it like most people. But the little that you do see him on, I can see why a lot of people, because the superstars are no longer actors and stuff like that. They're podcasters, they're influencers, they're different. It's a different set of people. Like he was talking about, and then of course while he was talking, I'm taking notes because he showed up. Did he show up late because he was just interviewing Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast, he was with him the night before.
Interviewing, he was on his podcast, and so I'm like, who? Okay, I don't know who Mr. Beast is. So I looked it up, and I'm like, wow, he's this really young guy.
He's one of the most famous YouTubers. I knew him. I came across him recently, maybe because I've been listening to Steven Bartlett's podcast for a while. Maybe he mentioned him. So I was like, who's this Mr. Beast he keeps on talking about? Because he is Steven Bartlett. Actually, when he was talking that day, he is in awe of him. Yeah. So I was kind of like, who's this Mr. Beast? And I remember looking him up, and I was slightly disconnected because I think he's a gamer or something, and he's on YouTube.
Oh my God, that's him.
Okay, anyways, but maybe I remember also seeing that he owns a chocolate company or something, and he has a chocolate brand or something.
I think I saw that.
Anyways, but yeah, he was super, Mr. Beast is super intense and super popular, obviously.
It was very interesting, actually. But I find I'm not surprised, because I find a lot of time what Steven Bartlett says and the feeling he conveys, and you find there's a shift that everybody's making towards trying to be more efficient in their time. I mean, you hear it all the time on Tony Robinson, and then Tony Robbins, and Jack Canfield, and Steven Bartlett said the same thing, and that you need to maximize your time, and you need to find, things that make you passionate. And so you feel there's a shift, and people are trying to
The first
go
person
there.
I think who said that, well, maybe the first person that would like said it like so spot on, because I read his book as well, and that I felt like, oh, this is so right, and that clicked for me in my head was when I read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. He says most people work hard, they don't work smart, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we kind of get caught up in this like whole this rat race where we're like working, but are we really producing anything? Are we really coming up with something? There's no like real result, because we're just kind of doing things, but we're not really doing the right things that we need to do for our business, or the right things we need to do for our projects. It's like we're just kind of trying to do too much.
Yeah.
But actually, Tim Ferriss is really good. His book is very good as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you disagreed with?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm trying to remember. He said something during the thing, and now I keep forgetting.
About what? Tell me, and I'll probably shed some light, because
I keep forgetting. It's really exhausting, actually.
He talked about some really interesting things, which I liked his book. Did you start reading it?
I did start reading it. Okay,
because he has certain things. The things that come out to me is, for me, because, that concept of failure, because to me that's a very important one, because I'm almost 50 and I feel like I failed at every single thing I've done. But actually, he says that failure is the only way for you to...
Is knowledge.
Yeah, no, but he says several things,
yeah.
But the thing he says about failure, what's so important is because if you don't, you have to experiment to succeed. And most experiments end in failure. I mean, you have to keep on experimenting so that eventually you kind of hit something that like works, right? And that inspired me, because actually, I always like to hear about these things, because I always feel like that's like the thing that I focus on the most, is like my failures.
No, I know, I don't. You learn from your failures. But he said, didn't he say something about sometimes the worst idea is the best idea?
Really?
Remember he was saying that you have to a bad idea is not necessarily a bad idea. It could be the idea, like if you do something that's so horrible, I don't know what, but that could be what attracts people.
Well, he said this in his book. He talks about how when he was a young entrepreneur, when he first started out, he had this office where he's like, I was a kid, so he's like, I wanted it to be a fun office or something, so he installed this blue slide, and in it goes into like a ball pit, right?
Okay.
But he said he got so much attention because of that. He was on so many of these like BBC and all these channels had covered him, and publications, because that was so absurd, and that got attention. He basically a lot of his success was he not only, but he said that kind of prompted him to be more well known, the absurdity of that blue
he uses
slide.
The word absurdity a lot.
I don't know where he says it.
Absurd things are what gets attention.
Exactly.
So you think like somebody, and he was saying like, you brainstorm in the thing, and then somebody comes up with an idea and you're just like, that's horrible, but it's the idea that works the best. And then it made me think of a movie, of course.
Which movie?
World War Z. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Big.
No. It made me think of World War Z, where the guy is like, they have, when they're trying to find out where it's coming from, that they have a policy that if there are 9 people on the board, and everybody agrees with the policy or an issue, one person has to disagree. And then you come up with basically another plan in case. You see what I'm saying? So it's
plan B?
Yeah, it's plan B. It's just
like... But by the way, he says in his book, having a plan B is your surest way not to succeed.
It's not a plan B. It's just like, if I can't remember how it was. I have to remember. It was a really nice part in the movie, actually, and
or is it because Brad Pitt was in it?
Yeah, Brad Pitt was in it. He's so hot.
Is that why you like that movie?
No, I hate zombie movies.
He's having, by the way, really bad. Having really bad fashion decisions these days.
Yes, the
very
flared
bad.
pants.
I don't know what the hell he's wearing.
No, but
he ate Robert Redford. Okay, he's close, but not. He's not quite.
But I hate zombie movies, but that movie was actually really good.
Yeah, no, I didn't like those. I didn't like that movie, and I'm not into zombie movies.
I'm
I
not
was
into
like,
it at
this
all,
is retarded.
But it was nice seeing him run around with his hair, and I'm like, he's just beautiful. He's a beautiful man.
He's gorgeous. It's true, and he's grown.
Have you seen him?
He's aged well.
Have you seen him in the ads for Formula One? No man that age has a right to look that good. He just looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. Anyways, okay, I digress.
Like
Back
Tom
to Steven
Cruise.
Bartlett.
Like
No, he looks. I saw a picture of Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he's not.
He ate
looking
2
that
more
great.
birds. Okay, he has 2 more birds.
You're so mean. I love him.
Lay off the Botox, buddy.
No, I don't know. Do you think?
How about? Did you see him? He really looked like he swallowed 2 birds. He was with. Who's he with? He's like, you know, that little puffed up cheek, and nothing's moving here, and nothing's moving there. It's sad.
He's 64.
And Brad Pitt is what, 60? 61?
Let's see what he looks like when he's in 3 years.
In 4 years? I'm sure he'll look much better than Tom Cruise does now. At least he has gray hair. Tom Cruise has no gray hair?
It's
not
not
one?
dyed. No, he does.
How about you see his beard? His beard is
I'm
all
sure
gray.
if he goes
Anyways.
like this.
You see his beard? Do you see his beard is all white?
Who?
Tom Cruise.
Okay. So I know some people who they don't have white hair, but they have white beard. Like, I'm sure he's got like, some little gray hairs places.
Please watch.
What?
What's it called? Which one was it? Mission Impossible?
I haven't seen any of his recent movies actually.
Mission Impossible, not the last one. The one.
When was the
before.
last movie? What was the last movie he did?
Mission Impossible.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The
which
part
one? I mean, it seems like
part one. But
part one.
Called?
There are like a zillion.
Let me finish.
Okay.
There's Mission Impossible Fallout. That's the one where you see his beard is all white, but his hair is black. Anyway.
I don't think I saw that one.
Okay, that's the one. And then there's one coming out now, which is part 2 from the one that just came out. Oh my God, I forgot what it's called.
Okay, we digress.
You digress. Sorry.
Okay,
back to Steven.
Yeah. What else did you think stood out for you? Okay. You know what stood out for me, actually? There were 2 things I noticed. First of all, I loved when he said about, this ties into something actually. Anyways, okay, let me say. When he was talking about, how you have to experiment to fail?
Yeah.
And he did a certain $250,000 experiment. Do you remember what he was talking about? When he spoke about the NFT of the ape that he got.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was just like, I thought of so many people when he said that. I was just like,
I was like, no, but see,
but maybe not.
But that's the thing. He has the ability to experiment with $250,000. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people, let's say, who become very successful, they say, maybe because in Egypt our currency's shit. So for me, this whole thing, like that kind of thing, sometimes you can make those experiments and they can really kill you. And it's true. But I think you'll never know how to succeed unless you do those things. Yeah. But the level he's talking about, $250,000 for the Bored Ape NFT. I was like, when I read about that, I was like, I can understand Bitcoin. I can understand the NFT. I do not understand it. And I don't. And I personally think, but I read an article that I think that didn't take off. That didn't fly, the NFTs.
I don't, anyways,
I
still don't understand it. I'm like, whatever. I get the Bitcoin thing, but like.
But it's like he was talking, that was when he spoke about cognitive dissonance. He says like your true beliefs. I want to read it actually because okay.
Okay.
Cognitive dissonance, and he spoke about that on that day. Describes the tension you experience when your thoughts conflict with your behavior. So like the same thing, like this kind of, it's like AI. And he was saying, like when he was talking about AI, about everybody's reaction, he could tell on people's face. Our cognitive dissonance, I guess, is as a Generation X, we didn't grow up with that. But the way it's completely taking over people's lives, it makes us uncomfortable. Right? Yeah. So that's cognitive dissonance. It's like when your core beliefs kind of conflict with something that's new that's coming in. And like he was talking about, he's like, the invention of the car was the same thing before when there was carriages and then there became cars. Everybody has that moment of cognitive dissonance. But that's why I had that with NFT, but it didn't work. So I was like, happy. But anyways, but other things like AI at one point.
Wouldn't NFT, like a cognitive dissonance, be that he doesn't get it, but his behavior is that he bought it?
No, that's another thing. He bought it because he's willing to experiment. He is willing to experiment to try so many different things to see what is what is going to succeed. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Which I can get that if you have the funds, and I probably wouldn't have invested in NFTs anyways.
But that's how he reminded me a bit of Tony Robbins, because remember when we went to Unleash the UPW, he was
Unleash Power Within.
Unleash Power Within. You should. It's like a concert. It's insane.
It's great. It's a great event.
It's really insane. Like when you're around that many people that are all trying. There were some moments that were just funny, but it was pretty good. It was amazing. Tony Robbins is one of those guys that just knows where to invest as well. He asks the right question. He reads a lot. He educates himself all the time. And so when Steven was just like, I'm investing that, it just reminded me of how Tony Robbins sees opportunities and goes for it, even if he's not sure it's going to.
But I'll tell you something which I'm sure of. All of these people who have amazing success, they're willing to take risks, first of all. Mm-hmm. But second of all, they're willing to take risks and they're willing to fail several times before they hit the jackpot. And I think a lot of these, I'm sure they don't. And this is what I agree with now is like you always see people once they're up there, once they've succeeded, but you don't see before that they probably made awful business decisions. But basically, that's what makes you learn for the next time, right?
Yeah.
You learn from your mistakes, and they've all, I'm sure, have made horrible investment decisions, but eventually kind of and you kind of find your way, you kind of figure it out.
Yeah, you learn. You know, I mean, every step you take is whatever goes wrong. You don't learn from. I find. Do you learn from your successes or do you learn from your failures? I think you learn from your failures and not to repeat it, and how to make it better the next time and so forth. And sometimes, some mistakes tell you that the way you were doing it at the beginning was the right way. You just took a kind of wrong deviation because you thought that might be better and it wasn't. You need to go back to like what I'm doing, like the baking. Yep. I think the original recipe of staying small and boutique and thing is much better than mass producing and losing the flavor and have people complain.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing I noticed, which I thought when I noticed that he always, well, I don't know if always, but probably 95% of the time he's wearing black. He's wearing the same t-shirt, the same pants. Really? And it made me think of Steve Jobs. Because, Steve Jobs did that. Apparently he always wore the same thing to avoid the, what's it called? Decision paralysis. Choice paralysis. No, decision. Anyways, so basically it's when you have too much choice, it's a waste of time. Okay. So I was wondering if that's why he's always wearing black. If it makes his life much easier, because if you wake up and you know what you're going to wear, you have all your t-shirts black, you're wearing this t-shirt, you're wearing that pair of pants, you're out of the door in like 5 minutes, and you're out of the door much quicker, and you're much more efficient than somebody who has like, oh, what am I going to wear today? I'm going to wear this.
That reminds me of school, by the way.
And I'm gonna do that. Oh, like uniform. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna wear black all the time because it's my favorite color.
But it reminded me of school. Remember how much we used to take deciding what to wear, and then we used to make fun of people in uniforms. And then I was like, but the uniforms is so simple. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
You just wear the uniform. It makes your life so much easier. Like the decision, you don't have to think about it. You just wear it, go to school, come back, and then you can change.
Okay, last question. Do you think that if Steven or somebody like him had to build a brand in Egypt and did it on basically based on all of his principles, do you think they would succeed?
In Egypt?
In Egypt.
Well, I haven't read all the principles, like really.
Well, like from what he's saying, like what he's doing, and do you think that would succeed in Egypt? I think it's a little bit more tricky in Egypt. I don't know. Or maybe because I live here, I'm making excuses for myself. No,
I think we live here, therefore we know the culture, we've been through it.
No, but what I'm saying is that are there more obstacles to success, or is it we're just making excuses?
No, I don't think we're making excuses. It is more difficult here in Egypt. In the States, I don't know what it's like now in the States because I don't live there, but I'm pretty sure it is in the States, in Europe, in most places. Then again, I don't know. I find the technicalities and the I find the legalities. Is it here?
The legal framework of setting up a company, you mean?
Not just a legal framework. Just all the little. Okay, you want to do this, you have to go to this entity to do it, but then you have to do this entity, and then I hate to say it. Sometimes being a woman doesn't help. Here, there is just they don't facilitate. Here, they don't facilitate the process. Here, I find Barra, they make it easier for you to start a business. Here, you want to take a loan from the bank, you have to do it against a deposit. So if I have that deposit, why do I want the loan? But, there in the States, it's like, you want a loan, take the loan. Okay, fine. You're paying higher, whatever interest rate. It's different. Financially, they work on a different model. But here, it's just, to start your own thing is very difficult. You need capital. And for capital, it's either you had a great job and you saved a shitload of money, or you come from a lot of money. But to start from ground zero and not have capital and try to basically raise funds is not easy.
I think he emphasizes a lot more than like having money and basically having a personal brand. And I think everybody, I've heard this all the time. Yeah. I'm basically, who are you? Gonna puke on that, because everybody says your personal brand is super important. Your brand is you, which I understand. But there are some people that don't want to build a personal brand. Anyways, on that note, what does everybody think about if Steven Bartlett had to start in Egypt? Would he succeed? Would he be as big as he is now? And what do people think about personal branding who want to be in business but don't necessarily want to build a personal brand around them? I know you couldn't do a faceless brand. Anyways, but what does everybody think about that? I'm very curious, because I've heard it so much. I'm just gonna be like, okay, I can't hear this one more time. Okay, so
but anything that's else basically. I find that they say that you have to push your personal brand, because everything on social media is about pushing your personal brand. So whenever you follow any of these accounts, these influencers, they are promoting their product, yes, but they are much more promoting themselves.
Yeah, which I find it's amazing.
And the product sells automatically.
I don't think I could do that. Maybe at some point I would, but for now I don't like. I'm not a fan. Oh, and by the way, for people who I have to say this. I'm going to wrap this up with this. I know there's been a lot of talk about foot fetish. That's why I'm wearing my Christmas socks. I had people ask me why. So anybody who has foot fetish,
really?
We're doing it because this is supposed to be casual talk on the sofa between close people and just being just completely authentic and real. So,
but I did get a cool pair of socks.
So I'm gonna start to wear socks from now on. So just so nobody.
Really?
Thanks for trying to flaunt our toes. Anyways, okay, thank you, and we will speak to you guys next week.
Have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Who Said What. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found a bit of laughter, a few lessons, or even a new perspective along the way. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes moments and to stay up to date on what's coming next.